Hello internets, this is Jason here, RoadBytes. Today I'm going over simple development workflow. This is a tutorial on how to quickly and simply manage a basic static site from your desktop. So this is geared towards somebody who knows absolutely nothing about web development, and it's a shout out to Chris, one of my friends from Melbourne. This may be a little too easy for him, but he can watch it in double time and see if it's something he wants to dig into. Quick pointer, this is a very interactive tutorial, so this is going to be very boring if you're just listening to me, but I've written this to where you can follow along on your own computer, because we're going to do a very simple development workflow. All right. So some things we're going to go over are the terminal, HTML and CSS. The terminal is an application that manages files and folders on your computer. Right now, most people manage with a mouse and a pointer, but the terminal is more powerful in a way because you can write scripts, and code is in text, and so interacting with files on your computer is also in text. Kind of makes it easier. There's other reasons, but we'll go over that. HTML is a hypertext markup language. It's a way that a browser interprets content or takes content and puts it on the screen. General, it usually has a tag with some attributes and then a closing tag. This is very, very high, like I said. But these attributes can get separated out so that you have content in one file and styling in another, and that's where CSS comes in. It's a way to separate styling from content. And generally, you can add styling by tags, classes, and IDs, and so we'll go over that. Not so much IDs, but tags and classes. So let's get started with this tutorial. So let me get this bigger. All right, so we're gonna look at some code snippets. First, we're gonna follow along from the post. You can look at these instructions, and I'll go over this live together. So it's like we're friends and we're coding together. All right. So let's talk about the terminal. The way you get to the terminal is from your root folder from your computer. You did it under Applications and Utilities. Here's Applications, Computer Applications, Utilities. It's right here. And here you're going to see Terminal. Super duper. There it is. Actually, I'm running mine, so if you open that up, you should get a new screen that looks something like this. Your prompts might be different. Mine's telling me I'm in the root folder. But if you do ls, that lists what's in your current directory or folder. And if you look here, you'll see desktop, and that corresponds to this desktop, right? So I want to actually get from my current root directory into this desktop. So what you do is you change directory, and you just write the folder, change directory to desktop. Now it says I'm in the desktop, right? Which is here. And if you see, we have three folders here. I can list again these folders, and here are my folders: 180 SQL, baby namer, alias, and next actions. 180 SQL, baby namer, next actions. Blah. Baby namer, alias, next actions. So the first thing we're going to do is add a blank directory. So you can do that with this command, mkdir, stands for make directory, and then second argument is actually second word is an argument to this command, which is the name of the directory. In this case, we're going to name it page. So I make directory page. I look on my desktop. Oh, hey, there's page. If we can look inside it, you'll see that it's empty, right? There's nothing in it. So we're going to change directory into page, right? And if you follow along with this tutorial, we are going to make a file called index.html, okay? So make directory index.html. So this is now, instead of making a directory, oh shoot, I don't want a directory. I actually want a file. So this is a text file, and the extension is .html, means that the browser will be the default thing that opens it. This is actually a blank file, so let's open it up. So now we have page, there's the file, page directory, index file. You can open it up with your favorite editor by going to open with. Text edit is usually the default folder for just text files on a computer. And so you can edit this file here. Because it's HTML, when I double click it, it'll default open to my preferred browser, which in this case is Chrome. So I opened it up and we get blank and blank, right? And so there's nothing really exciting there, but if I put text here, I'm actually going to open this with my favorite file editor, which is Vim. You can open it with whatever you want to open it with. Here we also get a blank file. This actually numbers the rows in the file. So this one is not part of the content of the file, it's just part of my editor. So let's just play around. Hello world. And so if I go here and I render the page, you can actually just reload the page, press hello world. So this browser is now editing this folder. And this is the simple workflow. You can type text here, and when you reload the page, it pops up. Okay. Hey, that's weird. It's putting it in one line. How do I get it to be different? And this is where we talk again about HTML being a tag syntax domain-specific language. So if I wanted that to be in 2 lines, like this, you need a p tag for paragraph with opening and closing tags, right? And now this should render the way we want it to, right? So this is what we're going to talk about, a simple workflow where you edit text and look at how it's rendered in the browser. But we don't want to do something like that. We're going to go over something a bit more sophisticated and specific and technical, which is HTML. So coming back to our page here, this is a basic website syntax. So this is just something you just have to memorize. It's kind of why learning to code is a bit tedious. HTML. Okay, so here, a general web page is comprised of opening and closing tags. Just in general, a page wants to know where it starts and ends. We do that with HTML tags. That way you can differentiate a bunch of text and figure out where the actual content lies, and it would lie in this case between HTML. If you look here, there's actually no content inside, so if I reload this page, you should get, want to take a guess? It's actually nothing. So along with HTML tag, there's a head tag and a body. Again, follow along. You could pause if it's going too fast, but I think people should actually type this out. What's going to render now? What do you think? Head and body? No, it's nothing. This is all just syntax, metadata of how HTML is put together. So the head usually takes data for the metadata, and it's not necessarily rendered on the page itself. But one of the tags is called title, and if you look at the notes here, page title. Oops, fix that. Now I re-render this page. Is this going to say anything? So the actual body didn't say anything, but the tab up here, if you notice, says page title. So in the head, there's metadata that's displayed in the browser tag tab. And but now let's get to some actual content, right? H1. This is a heading, H1. And now if we re-render the page, it's actually going to display a heading onto our page. Now there's default tags of H1, and this is which is a heading 1, and this is a paragraph. And like we said for paragraph, that's going to do a new line. That has its own rendering, and that's part of why learning to code takes so long, because there's so many tags and things to learn. It's just a mere quantity, not quality. So essentially the same thing, is tags. We haven't seen attributes yet, and content, and it's displayed. But now let's look at an attribute. Let's say I want the style. This is another thing to learn about, style. I want this to be a different color. Red. So what's going to happen is we change that to red, right? So this will just get you an idea of a general HTML tag attribute and content and how it's kind of all smashed together. Other popular ones are A tags, which create links. HTTP. So we can browse by face. I have to put the HTTP reference where we can browse HTTP // Okay, and it'll open in the appropriate page. There's Google. Before I get ahead of myself, this is going to be again like just a high overview, and I'll recommend some resources to dig in a bit more into this if you are so curious, because this focuses more on this workflow where you edit text and see it rendered. Okay, so here I am. That's the HTML portion. Now a lot of people don't like smashing together the content and the styling, right? How the content's displayed. And one way we can fix this is, let's say we wanted to change, or like just an example, let's say we want to change all these headings to green. Well, then we'd have to go into here and say green, 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 and now it's all green, okay? CSS is a way to kind of separate out the content and the styling so that it'd be easier to edit. I mean, sure, there's other reasons, but style, that's done by sticking this metadata in the head. And putting the attributes here. So here we want all H1 tags to be the color green. Oops. Yeah. It's like that. Okay, let's see if that works. And then we can remove these things to okay. And we still get green. I'm reloading the page, and that way, if I want to change it now to red, it's a bit more easier to manage. Oops. Okay. Reload the page. But let's say I don't want to change all my H1 tags. I want this one to be red, and I want the rest to be black, right? So what we've then developed is another attribute called a class, where we can be a bit more descriptive on what is happening here. And so instead of changing all the H1 tags, I could just label something with the class alert, and then it'll change that color to red. That means in our style tag, we change it from H1. We don't want to change the H1s, we want to change the class alert. So dot usually means class alert. And now we can kind of nail down some of the styling to certain things. Classes can be used on different tags. Element has also an attribute that you can set called ID. Go. And the ID usually is reserved to just one element on the whole page, okay? And this is just another syntax thing. It's not instead of class, which is a dot alert, we want ID, which is hash, go. And we can nail it down to color. Let's say we want the style to be pink, purple. Let's go, so let's do green. And you usually want to just create one ID to one specific tag. But this gives us a bit of a taste of CSS and how it's used to increase the ability to change the styling of a page and separate it out. Okay, so let's come up here. We went over the terminal. We went over some basic HTML, and we looked at a little bit of CSS. Now we're really going to hammer this out and separate things out here by creating a new file for this styling. Okay, you'll see this a lot, where instead of creating all the styling and the content in one page, you're actually separating them out altogether. So let's create a file. We are in my, if you can see here, we are in the desktop page directory. If I do an ls, it lists the file. We have an index file. I want to create a styling file, which is just a text file. It ends with, we'll just end it with CSS. And so the way we do that is the touch command, styling.css. So now when I ls, I'll see two files now, index and styling, right? But this styling page is empty, and what we're going to do is we're going to take out this styling here. Okay, save it. There goes my styling, and we're going to link to the styling folder file and put it in there. So again, you can open it however you want. You can open it with your favorite browser. Open with your favorite browser, your favorite editor. Open with here, and I'm going to open it with Vim. And let's just paste in the styling now. Because we're in a style CSS folder, you actually don't need the style tag. In fact, style tag is part of HTML, and this is CSS. And so, is that enough to get our page the coloring we want? No. And so the reason is we don't know what that file is. This file here has no reference to the CSS file that's right next to it in that page folder. So the way we do that is we create a link written in HTML, which has in the head, right? I'm just going to copy and paste this. And so the way that it works is we have the link tag. Looks like there's not even a closing link tag. With the relative attribute set to style sheet, type CSS, and then the reference is, this is important, it references where the file is. And because it's in the same root folder, there's no slashes. So href lets us know that the folder is in the same root folder, which is the page folder. Sounds kind of confusing, but let's just reload this page. And now we get our styling. Okay, so we separated out the style, and now we have the content and the style in two different folders. So without further ado, that's basically it. Now we're just going to go to some applications. It's a really simple concept, but there's certain gotchas that you're going to have to try to consider here. So if you wanted to practice this, you can just do it on your own computer. There's a link here to a website that lets you do it all in one place. Here's the style sheet. Here's the actual rendering. But But we'll go over some of those gotchas, and I won't necessarily give you the answer. You're going to have to do it yourself. So we have our style, and we have our content. What would happen if this is defined again somewhere else, and instead of red, this is blue? How would that be rendered on this page? Okay. And what would happen if we have other attributes, and you can learn about this from the reference book, text align, and I wanted to center it. How would that be rendered on this page? Right? Would it ignore it altogether because of this alert down here? And then another question is, what would happen if this has class alert and there's a style color pink set here? What color would this be? This heading? Red? Would it be blue? Would it be pink? So those are just some of the gotchas, and parts of determining how to fix these or what's going on is inspect. Inspect highlights certain elements. Different browsers have different ways of inspecting, and it tells you which attributes are assigned to this element, and sometimes you can see where it's coming from. And so that's just a really high level way to kind of dig into some of the gotchas that come with HTML CSS. We also have an example template. I'm going to go ahead and download this. We can do this together. And let's look at it here. Oops, I already had it before. Trash. Let's see, I unzip this. I get a folder. I'm going to drag this to my desktop. Beach Resort. Oh, hey, look, there is an index file. That seems kind of interesting. What happens if I open this default? Hey, look, I get a page, right? It's really pretty. A static page. What happens if I open this with my editor, my favorite editor of choice? Use MacFin this time. Oh, look, it's HTML. Hey, look, there's a style sheet link. This time it's to a CSS folder. Oh, look, there's a style CSS. Right? Let's open that up. Oh, here, look, there is a tag, body tag, with attributes. There's also a class here, or this is an ID logo. So this is just an example site you can play with from your desktop, where you can practice the same simple workflow, simple development flow. So let's say I want to change the content of this home button. That would be in the HTML portion. Let's see if I can look here, div. In fact, I'll just do a search. Home, capital H. Oh, there it is, home. Change in tag. This is really hard to see, I know. Let's make that big. And I'll say my casa. So I'll practice the same loop here. Now it says my casa. But I have this template where I can play around with different HTML elements, different CSS elements, and see how it's implemented differently through the browser. That's right there. So further reading, again, this is a book that I think kind of summarizes HTML CSS really well. Talks about some of the gotchas I talked about. It's a book by Duckett, HTML and CSS. There's a website here for trying out your code. I don't remember what this is. Let's see. Yep, it's the same one I showed you from before, but it's the main site. And lastly, but not leastly, one of my buddies, Chris, was talking about getting a template. Well, there's lots of templates here where you can just drag the folder onto your desktop. Some of them are free, some of them, like this Wix thing, probably you can just download, but this Wix one's kind of weird. And it's just a start, simple workflow to get your hands dirty into code and play around with different concepts and to read further into it. So that's it for today. If you have any questions, feel free to catch me through my website or leave a comment on this page. The next tutorial, I'm going to talk about deploying. So all you're really doing, all I'm going to do is use GitHub to host this static site. Essentially, all it's really doing is taking your folder from your desktop, right? Whether it's page or beach resort template, and it's just copying it onto a remote server so that people can open up the index file or whatever file from a remote server. And so we'll talk about that next time. Anyways, that's it for this simple development workflow. It's kind of like an easy intro tutorial to, a way to kind of get a taste of development. There's no Ruby. There's no complex. Well, I think this is pretty much a very, very bare bones intro into web development with simple HTML and CSS concepts. Anyways, yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and talk to you later. Bye. Stopping recording.